You're watching the Chinese Business Strategy Advisor. Don't go away. I'm going to talk with you about the 5 skills of Bingfa. Today I'm going to talk to you about the 5 skills. The 5 skills of Bingfa, Bingfa Wugong. This is something that I've put together, the 5 skills, to help people who are just starting to do business with China, or maybe you have for a while, but you're recognizing that there's a lot of things that are going on that just don't always make sense. You're experiencing maybe even some different emotions, you're experiencing some different frustrations, or a sense of confusion. And so what I'd like to do is go through the 5 skills of Bingfa and explain to you how they work. And what they are 5 Chinese sayings that I have learned over the years, starting from my very early years in China in the 1980s, all the way through until just recently. I continue to learn, I continue to better understand the Chinese culture because that's what's going to help you. The more you understand about Chinese culture, the more you understand with how the Chinese do things, the better it is going to be for you. So don't do what I used to do and try and change the Chinese, because all my friends would say, Todd, you can't change the Chinese. And I guess at some point I kind of recognized that it's better to go with the flow than to try and go against it. So I put together these 5 skills. The first one is no self, no others. No self, no others comes from the art of war. And if you're familiar with the art of war, Sun Tzu, you'll probably know that expression or some different way of saying it. But basically what it says in Chinese is 知己知彼, no self, no others. And then it goes on to say that if you do, you will be more successful. If you don't, you will be less successful. And then I suppose there's just sort of the middle road. So that's a really important place to start, and that's why I put it first. And it actually is one of the first Chinese sayings, classical sayings, that I had learned. And so it's something that I've been applying to my interaction with China, and it's something that I used through my growth over the years in China and learning about the Chinese. Yes, it was frustrating. Yes, I had a lot of challenges, but I came out a winner. Okay, the next one is follow the village. Follow the village is basically the same concept as when in Rome, do as the Romans, but let's not fall back on that one. Let's use that as an understandable near area, something that's close, but let's also recognize that do as the village is Chinese, because in Chinese it says 如乡随俗, which means when you go into the village, do according to their habits, do according to their ways. And so what that means is that when we go into China, we don't want to say, oh, hey, we're an American company and we want you to do it our way. We want to say, hey, we're glad to be here. We're an American company and we're also very open to learning other ways. You don't need to say that to the people you're working with. You need to say that inside your heart and amongst your other coworkers that, hey, we need to see what we can learn from them. We need to see what we can do in order to better work with them by being in their environment and adapting to some of their ways of doing things. Now that may seem simplistic, but that's only because you haven't seen the profoundness of the differences, and you also may not have really come to a place yet where you're recognizing that, hey, maybe somebody else has got some wisdom that kind of usurps ours. You know, we can all learn something, and when we have that mindset, we usually grow and we usually do a better job in the long run. The third one is have a heart that protects, not a heart that harms. This is an expression that I learned quite a few years ago, and I learned it through challenges. I learned it through all of the difficulties that I was having. This is an expression in Chinese that the Chinese all know very well, but it's not something that they discuss or talk about, because this is something that they've learned as a child. The parents, society will tell them, hey, don't trust everybody, but at the same time, don't do anything that hurts anyone else. Because if you do, it's only going to come back to hurt you or come back to bite you, right? So it's important to be vigilant in Chinese society, and this is something that I learned the hard way. Be vigilant. You just don't trust somebody because they're friendly and they seem to fit into our way of judging character as though, oh, this person's really friendly, they want to help me. Yeah, I know. And eventually I learned that usually the Chinese will walk away from the person who's trying to be really friendly with them if they don't know who they are. They don't have some sort of a connection with them. Number 4, be restrained in the moment. And that comes from a very famous poem that I'm not going to recite. But what this is ren yi shi, which means ren is the word for to persevere. Persevere, to put up with challenges and difficulties, to grit your teeth, if you will, to hold tight, do whatever you have to in order to be successful. And so what this is telling us is to be patient. It's telling us we need to be patient, we need to take our time, let's not rush, let's, And number 5 is failure, the mother of success. 失败乃成功之母. Which basically means that without failure, we won't have success, because when we go to the concept of the yin-yang, you have to have these two parts that are going to work together in order to make things work. You have two parts. You have the yin and you have the yang, and they're opposite energies within one situation. And so that's an aspect of life, period. Everything isn't going to be hunky-dory and rose gardens and all of that, because that's just not reality. So we're going to have situations where we'll fail. We're going to have situations where we may do something wrong. But those are the foundation for our success. And we want to learn from those situations. And that's something that's huge in Chinese culture. Learning. The people are a learned people. There are people who are learning. They've been learning for thousands and thousands of years. That is something that is adding to and supporting their success in life, because they are a literary people. They have literature that they've been reading for thousands of years, 5,000 years. And we, as Americans, don't. And so we haven't got that expansive background and knowledge and experience that people have been writing down for thousands of years to let us know, hey, don't do this, or do it this way, it works better. And so that's the situation, what we can do with the 5 skills of Bing Fa. Those are just some guiding posts or guideposts to help us to make better decisions when dealing with China, when interacting with the Chinese. So for any more information, check out any of my other videos, and then also please sign up for the Chinese Business Strategy Advisor newsletter, like my channel, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Thanks. 再见.